AOTV Productions is with us here live, and we were just talking about John Cena. He says, I wish we could have gotten Hulk Hogan versus John Cena. What a match that would have been. I do think it's interesting, John, when you think back about John Cena at WrestleMania. During the COVID WrestleMania, we wrestled Bray Wyatt. He sort of channeled his inner Hulk Hogan for an NWO version of John Cena. If that match were to have ever happened, and I realize the timeline just never really worked out, but if it could have, would you have rather have seen babyface Hogan versus babyface John Cena, or would it have made more sense with John Cena versus NWO Hollywood Hogan?
Oh, no. I'd want to see NWO Hogan. No doubt about it. I don't want to see babyface versus babyface. No, absolutely not. I want to see The Rock versus Hogan with Cena playing The Rock. Because I think that would have been amazing. Look, I think Hogan has had the most consequential run of all time. I think the only guy more consequential is either Londos or Vince McMahon in the history of the business. And, probably just one. Probably just Vince. Because his run in the late 90s, I mean, here's a guy that's past his prime, physically, his back was already bad, and he comes back and creates the entire Attitude Era. I mean, not by himself. I understand that. Kevin and Scott had a lot, and Steve had a lot of people had to do it, but a lot of people had a lot to do with WrestleMania. But he's the front man. He's the guy on the cover of Sports Illustrated, which was unheard of back then. And he's the guy that's carrying WrestleMania. He's the guy that carried us into the Attitude Era. I think it's one of the greatest runs, maybe the greatest run of all time. But I would love to see NWO Hogan versus John Cena, because at some point he's going to Hulk up. And when he does, just like he happened with The Rock, it's going to be one of the greatest reactions in the history of the world. That reaction, I watched it just the other day just to see it again. When he hulked up after Rock hit him with that rock bottom, my God, man, I watched it live. It was unbelievable. I was a kid again. I was a kid with with my buddies just sitting there watching Hogan again. It was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I would love to see NWO Hogan versus Cena.
Mr. Brisco, you've seen a lot of big Hulk Hogan moments and matches, and of course, he made most of those memories hand in hand, arm in arm with Vince McMahon. Needless to say, they've had an on again, off again, love-hate relationship, whatever you want to classify. What can you tell us about that Hulk Hogan, Vince McMahon dynamic in real life? Because I feel like there's been a lot written about it, but I don't think we'll ever hear enough stories about that relationship. These guys together really built professional wrestling the way we see it and consume it today. Tell us about their sort of hokey pokey relationship through the years.
I will, but if I can tell, John brought up Rock and Hogan, and I was sitting at Gorilla that night, and it's one of the most electrifying moments I've ever sat through in my entire life. When you control Gorilla, you're controlling the flow of the event, the timing of the event. We plan for introduction to go, a minute and a half, 2 minutes if it's really spectacular. That night when Hogan hit the ring, and John, you were backstage, and I'm sitting there at Gorilla with Vince and everybody else that's in control, and all of a sudden Hogan goes out there. That place in Toronto just friggin' erupts. And okay, it's great, man. You're getting goosebumps. Then all of a sudden, just through the timing in your head, that experience, you expect it to start dying down. That didn't die down. It just got louder and louder and louder. For almost 20 minutes, Hogan is standing there, and the people are they're busting every decimal point that you can actually bust it on a meter there. And we're saying, oh, man, what are we going to do? And Vince said, let it go, man. We don't get this every night. So, man, we just let it go. Almost 20 minutes of just sure pandemonium, baby, as they used to say back in the old days. But their relationship, I'm going back to answer your question. But, John, that was probably one of the most exciting nights probably in the history of our business, if you just step back and
hey, before we talk about the Vince relationship, I want to circle back to that match. I'm glad we're spending a little more time on it. John, I've often believed that it was that reaction that night that we're talking about the Rock Hogan WrestleMania 2002, it's WrestleMania 18. A month later, we're going to see Hulk Hogan become the champion. He'll actually be the last WWF champion before the company has to switch to being WWE. But then a month after he wins the belt, he drops it back to Taker in Nashville. So we do get the huge return, an incredible reaction, not just at this show, but when he shows up at Monday Night Raw the next day in the red and yellow. It is an overwhelming reception. And I've often wondered, is that why maybe Vince never turned John Cena heel? Because he knew that when you've got such a well-established babyface like that, the fans don't really want it. I mean, originally, Hogan was supposed to be the heel that night against The Rock, but the fans wouldn't have it. They rejected it, and they rejected it in such a profound way that we're still talking about the crowd reaction all these years later. Do you think that was in the back of Vince's mind, and maybe that was the reason he never pulled the trigger on a John Cena heel turn?
Yeah, I think so. And also got to remember that match with The Rock. The Rock, you talk about a brilliant guy. And a lot has been said about Hogan, justifiably so. The Rock didn't turn heel that night because he knew it was a global audience. He had the sense. I mean, let me tell you something. 99.9999999% of wrestlers would have turned heel that night that had any sense, that knew what they're doing, that had been in the ring a while. And obviously, if you're out there with Hogan, you've been in the ring a while, or you wouldn't be in the ring with him. They would have thought, hey, man, this is a perfect chance to turn heel. I'm just going to turn heel. They're going to love it. And the live crowd would have loved it. But Rock knew it was a global audience. And Rock stayed in character. Rock didn't didn't change. It was, he did enough, but it's pretty remarkable by both guys. That was a moment in time of two of the greatest entities in sports entertainment and entertainment history that you caught two guys at their absolute peak in front of an incredible electric crowd. And I think that's one of the reasons I agree with you, Conrad, that Vince never wanted to turn Cena. I mean, Conrad, I would sit in those creative meetings, not for the meetings the day of. I wouldn't sit with them on Thursday and Friday, when Bruce invented the headlock and the lockup and wrestling. But I would sit there, on the day of, because me and Michael Cole had to know that for, what we were doing in commentary. And it was pitched all the time to turn Cena heel. I mean, everybody, it was almost monthly. Somebody would pitch. He's selling at most half the merch. He's the one selling tickets. It was unbelievable. And I'd see him every night go out there, and the crowd would be, let's go Cena. Cena sucks. By the time he'd finished with his promo, every single night, Conrad, he had that whole crowd turned. That Cena was just amazing. And I think Vince 100% was correct not to turn him heel. And he probably would have never turned Hogan either. I don't know what he would have done with him, but, Hogan had that great run as a heel. But I think that was a big reason.
Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment, and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next two house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to SaveWithConrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at SaveWithConrad.com. Shoot me an email at Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105. Or get yourself a quick quote, even talk to a live person right now at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at SaveWithConrad.com.